Okay, hello, this is me again. Okay, the next two letters we're going to do, the ones that we did today, are Mem and Nun, the M and N sounds in English. Mem has two forms just like the cough did. This is the regular Mem. This is the Mem Sophite, which will look slightly different in type, but when you're writing by hand, you usually just kind of make a box, and that's the ending. This is more of a triangle with a hook on it. You can see it there. And that is for the beginning or the middle of a word. Mem stands for water. And here is the word for water, mayim. And you can see both mems in it. Water, other than air and oxygen, is the most important thing to keep us alive. So the mem also signifies life. Here is, we talked about at the beginning, one of the first lessons, the word for father is Av in Hebrew. It's Abba in Aramaic, but that's what people usually say, and that's okay. This is the word for mother, Aim. And you probably won't hear people say Aim. There are families where they've taught their children not to call them mom and dad, but Abba and Ima. Ima is what you're going to hear, and that's the Aramaic form of it. So this is the water, and that's the head. She's the source of life. She's fluid. She adapts to things. You know, water doesn't have a form. It has a certain amount of mass, but it doesn't have a shape. It will adapt to whatever kind of vessel it's put into. So as women, don't we find that we need to adapt and move and be able to reach over here and also to the other side and bridge? That's what our life is like. This is a mother. Here is a Nun, and it also has two forms. Here's the regular Nun, and here's a Nun Sophite. And this is what, this looks like a leaf coming out of the ground to me. A Nun is a sprout. And it can be a sprout, or it can be a fish, or it can signify movement, because sprouts grow pretty quickly, and it's a seed until you see the movement, and then it becomes the sprout. And fish move. So it can be any one of those three things. This is Nun, and that is a word for fish. And we also know dog, right? Dog means fish. And then here's Neen. And that's the word for a great-grandchild. So by the time you get to a great-grandchild, there's been a fair amount of movement. The sprouts have grown and spread out. Here is another word that you'll find in the Tanakh. It's not used much in modern Hebrew, if at all. I don't really know for sure if it's ever used. Nun, Aleph, Na, and it means please. Now in modern Hebrew, what they say is bevakasha. And that can also mean you're welcome, please, or you're welcome. And it means something like, according to your, in your request, or in your seeking. And I don't really know how that translates into please or thank you, please or you're welcome, but that's what it is, bevakasha. This is what you're going to see in the Old Testament. Okay, so moving on, let's see, some other words here. See, I'm looking at my notes, I'm sorry, just anything I forgot to say. I don't think so. Nothing that really matters. Okay, so how was that done? Okay, this word is Navi. Now the Aleph, I said before, I went out of focus. Come on, camera. Can you find me? There we go. Okay. An Aleph doesn't have its own sound. Even though it's considered a consonant, the only sound it has is whatever vowel marking is attached to it. And there isn't one. So it is not going to make a sound here. Navi. If you took that off, it would be pronounced exactly the same. This is the word for prophet. And like, I didn't show this today, but Ketuvim. it's this. How do you spell ketuvim? I think it's with a cough. I'm going to hope so. Somebody can correct me when they see me if they know different. Okay, so we talked about the Tanakh. There's Tet, Nun, and I think it's Kaf. Anyway, this is for Torah. This is for the prophets. And this is for the writings, which means Psalms, Proverbs, things like that. So, and you just put some vowels with it, and that's the Tanakh. So Navi is one prophet. Navi'im is prophets, plural. And let's see. Well, we've talked about lechem a lot, but, you know, I'm just going to skip that because I think you guys know that word by now. Okay, here's a het and a nun sofit with the A marker, A, hain. Only you guys say it with that wet sound, okay? Hain. And that means grace or favor. If you added, so now it's going to be in the middle, so it's no longer a nun sofit. And I think it has 2 of those. No, it doesn't. And that one has a doggish, but it doesn't change the form. I mean, it doesn't change the sound. So this is Cain, Hannah. That's the woman's name, Hannah. It's just a feminine form of grace or favor. There's another name that I want to show you, and this is one that as English speakers, we do not pronounce the way it is in the Bible. And in fact, we have a son that we named him the English pronunciation, not the way you're going to find it in the Bible. And let's see. Okay. Okay, here's the grace, but they've changed the vowels a little bit. Han. Han, there's the O, k, and the k at the end. Remember in that verse that we just did, part of the Shema? The k on the end means your grace, your favor. Chanok, or as we usually say it, Enoch. Okay, now why did I have all these on here? I guess just to practice some sounds. Dog means fish. We went over that. Beit lechem. We've done that. Bite, we've done. Okay, so here is a word. Okay. Beit, vav, with the dot, it's a holem vav, aleph. Is there a vowel marking with the aleph? No, there isn't. So it's not going to make any sound. All you have is bo, and that means come. And we've sung or listened to at least the song, the Joshua Aaron song, Bo Yeshua Bo. This is bo, come. And then what I was going to do was share some of the pronouns, because they get kind of interesting. I'm going to start with the ones for I, like I, and there are 2 of them. Let's see, can I fit this in here? I don't know if I can. I write pretty big. Let's see what I can do. I think it's going to work okay. They both start with an aleph and a nun. This says, what is that? Okay. Oh, I know what it was. Duh. supposed to be a dot. Just didn't look like one to me. Ani. Ani. That means I. But, and this is something I brought up today, and I'm not sure. So if anybody finds a place in Hebrew, in the Tanakh, where God refers to himself as Ani, please point it out to me. Because in my mind, in my memory, it doesn't happen. But maybe I just don't remember it, or just glanced over it and didn't pay attention. So correct me. This is Anohi. Oh, and that's, should that have a doggish? No. Okay, Anohi. And it's going to be this wet sound. Okay, and this usually means I, myself. It's an emphasis on me. I did this. It was my hand that built that. Anohi. And I think Adonai always refers to himself as Anohi. I, myself, not just I. But I'm not positive. And I remember asking some Jewish people who converted, Messianic Jewish people, about that verse in the New Testament where Yeshua says, before Abraham was, I am. And I said, how do you think that was said? And the consensus is he would have just said, Ani. Before Abraham was, Ani. Because you don't use the verbs is that much. So he would have just said, Ani. That's what we believe he said. So that's I. And then for we, you start with the same two letters. And what we do? Anachnu. The new, and if you studied French or Spanish, any of the Romance languages, it probably occurs other places, like in French, nous is us and nos for Spanish, or nosotros. So the new, I don't know how that worked out, but it means we. So when you find the new at the end of a verb, it, not always, often means we did or we are supposed to. It can also be the imperative command form, but very often if you see new at the end of a word, it might mean our, it might mean we did something. It often has to do with the first person plural. So anachnu is the first person plural, means we. Then you have the third, I'm not even doing the second person today. I'm going to go on to the third person. This is where I've never gotten comfortable with these. I always have to think it through before I say things. I wanted them all to fit on a line. I don't know if I'm going to get there. Okay, I hope everybody can see this. Okay, and these are 3 different words. Okay, me. It says me, but it doesn't mean me. It means who. Who's coming to the party? Whose house is this? Whose shoe got left here? Who. But it's pronounced me. Now this word is pronounced who. And again, you have that silent aleph. Who. And it doesn't mean who, it means he. This is pronounced he. But it doesn't mean he, it means she. So those, like I said, I always have to, especially with he and who, he and she, I always have to think about it and shift it over in my mind because it has never gotten to where it comes natural. Someday, I hope it will, but it just hasn't happened yet. Then there is one word, a phrase that I wanted to share. Hold still. Is this going to fit on here? I'm going to do 2 lines. let's see, is there anything else that goes with that one? Nope. Okay. And this is going to use some of the prefixes that we were just talking about on the last one. Okay. Ani, ledodi, vdodi, li. I, and here's the prefix, to. In this case, it means more for. Dodi means, well, first of all, let me explain the E on the end. Dode is the word. E on the end means my. So, for me, dode. In biblical Hebrew, this can mean one of two things. Usually it means beloved. It can mean uncle. In modern Hebrew, it always means uncle. So I am for or to my beloved, there's and, here's the same word, and my beloved, la, e. Here's the prefix, here's the suffix, and that's all you have is a prefix and a suffix. Li, for me. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. That's from Song of Songs. It is written into most ketubas. It's part of a marriage ceremony, and it's also a phrase that you hear around Sukkot, because if you take these letters, and this letter, Lamed, here's a Vav, and here's another Lamed. Change the vowels a little bit, and you have Elul. Elul. That is the month preceding all those fall feast days, and most people take the month of Elul to repent, to fix their lives, to make apologies to people, to restore relationships. And so because this is, what is that word? You take the first letters. Anyway, senior moments, they happen more often than I want. Anyway, you do all that and you come up with the month of Elul. So there has been symbolism attached to that. And this verse, or this phrase out of a verse, is attached to Sukkot, because that is when the joy is. And we do belong to our Lord, and we are beloved by him, and he is our beloved, and it's wonderful. So I think that was all I was going to do on that. Okay, so that is it. Have a good evening.